I just finished reading the book Cujo. My God, it's brutal and sad. This book is not what I expected. I thought it was going to be about a monster dog or something, you know. There's so many references to Cujo in pop culture that are almost like tongue-in-cheek that I kind of had a feeling that it was just going to be like a scary story about a dog that gets rabies. And I'd seen the movie a long time ago when I was a little kid, but I don't really remember anything about it. I just remember the lady and the kid stuck in the car and the St. Bernard's just going fucking ballistic the whole time trying to get at him. I can't remember really anything else about it. So I'm going to have to watch the movie after this too, but that's for the future. This is now. We're talking about the damn book right now. And I've got my copy of Cujo right here from the #1 author of Firestarter, Stephen King. I haven't read Firestarter yet, so maybe that'll be on deck soon enough. So this was a pretty nice read, honestly. I enjoyed this book a lot more than I expected to. This is one of Stephen King's books that I've kind of been putting off. I've been reading a lot of Stephen King lately. I got through The Stand, It, Christine, Salem's Lot. I just finished that one as well, The Shining. So I've been doing a lot of Stephen King, and it's been great. I've enjoyed almost all of his books so far, but this is my first time really going through everything, and I'm not doing it in any particular order. I honestly only landed on Cujo because I just finished Needful Things last month, and I enjoyed the town of Castle Rock so much that I was like, you know what, I gotta check it out. I gotta see what else happens in Castle Rock. So let's check out Cujo, and I'm glad I did. I mean, it's an incredibly sad story. It's just straight up a tragedy, the whole thing from start to finish. I feel like right away, like, you know, the dog gets rabies because just through pop culture, just through osmosis, everybody pretty well knows that that's what the book's going to be about. And that's sad enough because you see that coming right away. They set up this great beginning where you see Cujo as this lovely dog who's just so friendly to everybody, picks up little 4-year-old Tad by his overalls and sets him back on his feet when he falls down. And it's just like, Cujo's just one of those dogs where you're like, it doesn't get any better than this. You know what I mean? But then he gets rabies and he goes fucking ballistic. So let's just see what the back of the book says about Cujo, and I'll kind of give my thoughts on that. The ultimate beast is loose, and Stephen King is sending him your way. A big friendly dog chases a rabbit into a hidden underground cave and stirs a sleeping evil crueler than death itself. A terrified 4-year-old boy sees his bedroom closet door swing open untouched by human hands and screams at the unholy red eyes gleaming in the darkness. The little Maine town of Castle Rock is about to be invaded by the most hideous menace ever to savage the flesh and devour the mind. Cujo hits the jugular, King's most disturbing horror yet, the New York Times says. I don't know. I've read books since Cujo or whatever, but this one is probably the most like devastating book that I've read so far, at least. It's just very sad. I don't know what to compare it to, honestly, but the only book that I've read that's sadder than Cujo is, so far anyway, Lovely Bones. That book... I'm not going to get into Lovely Bones too much right now, but as I was reading that book, and I think it definitely hits you harder if you're a parent, I'm assuming, but as I was reading Lovely Bones, it was like after every chapter, I had to like take a break and try not to cry my little ass off because I was just like, what the fuck is this book doing to me? Anyway, we'll get back to Cujo now. Based on this description on the back of the cover of the book, you would almost think that like this is going to be some sort of like monster dog story, right? That's kind of what I think it puts out there anyway, that it's going to be this monster St. Bernard terrorizing Castle Rock, but it's not really the case. It's more of like a one location type of story. As far as the Cujo stuff goes, the thing that really surprised me about the book is that it's not so much a horror book other than like some of the stuff with Cujo, which is split up pretty evenly between like some of the other things that are going on. It to me felt like a drama almost more than anything. You've got this other storyline going on with Donna Trenton, who is the wife of Vic Trenton, and she's also Tad's mom. They're like the main family in the story, I would say. There's like two main families in the story, and Donna Trenton's the mom of this one. Everything that's going on with her and Vic feels much more just like a straight up drama where they're having these relationship problems. They've moved to Castle Rock from New York. Right away, Vic's got drama with his job because the cereal that he's doing ads for put some red dye in this new type of cereal that made all these kids throw up all this red shit, and everyone thought their kids were getting sick and puking up red blood and shit like that. Their kids are, everyone thinks their kids are fucking dying because of the cereal, but really it's just red dye. But it creates this huge backlash against the cereal company, and Vic has to go on a business trip to New York for 10 days with his coworker Roger, and that leaves Donna and Tad home alone. The whole reason why they get into this fucking mess is because everybody keeps putting things off and no one's communicating properly. Like there's this whole deal with the car, and Donna's gonna, Tad's gonna set up an appointment. Tad's a fucking kid, never mind. Scratch that. Not Tad. Tad's a child. Other than Cujo, he's the other like completely innocent party here, where it's like people should be taking better care of Tad, honestly. Holy fuck. But anyway, Vic is supposed to be setting up a car appointment for Donna, and he doesn't. So she's like, I got this problem or whatever with the car. And he's like, why don't you take it down to Joe Cambra's garage? That's where we took the Jaguar that one time. We met Cujo. Joe Chambers, the owner of Cujo, him, his wife Charity, and their son Brett are the other basically mirror image family to Tad, Donna, and Vic, if you will. And so she's like, you know what, I'm just going to handle this shit on my own. I'm going to take it down to Joe Chambers' garage and we'll see what's up with the damn car. And when she goes there, Cujo's already got rabies. He's already fucking killed Joe. He's already killed Joe's friend, Gary Purvier. And basically they just get trapped in Joe Camber's driveway by Cujo because he's just sitting there like watching over them trying to fucking kill him the whole time. And that's kind of the whole drama that's not even all the drama that's going on. That's basically just how we set up Tad and Donna getting stuck at Joe Camber's garage. The other drama is that Donna has been fucking this guy Steve Kemp behind her husband's back, and he finds out about it because she refuses Steve Kemp's advances. She turns him down, and he's so pissed off about it that he writes a letter to Vic basically explaining like, I've been fucking your wife. What do you think about that? And obviously, he put some details in there that basically prove that he's not lying or making it up or whatever. And Vic's like, fuck. So now Vic's having to deal with this bullshit at work and then deal with his fucking bullshit wife, Donna. Fucking goddamn Donna, dude. I don't know. I feel like everyone in this book is written really realistically, like very realistically. But I can't say that Donna didn't fucking piss me off the whole time. It goes back to some of my expectations about the book that were way off. Like I had these expectations about the book that it was going to be like mostly horror / survival, because I knew they got stuck at Joe Camber's garage, and I knew they were stuck in the car the whole time, and they're trying to figure out how to get out of this situation in the broke down car, etc. So my thoughts were like, we're going to see Donna basically going through all these different options of like how she can get out of this situation. And she kind of does in the book, like, but it's just like her thinking about it. She thinks about trying to run into the Camber's house, but she's like, what if the door's locked? Cujo's gonna fucking eat me if the door's locked. And then she sees a baseball bat in the yard and she thinks maybe I could get the bat and fucking beat the dog to death. But she keeps putting that off because she's not sure. Again, she's like, well, if I get fucking killed, then Tad's gonna be stuck in the car by himself. He's a little kid. He's like 4 years old or something. So I don't really want to risk it, So she keeps just like putting it off, but really that's kind of all we see her do. I think there's one time when she gets out because she thinks Cujo's gone, but he's waiting at the front of the Pinto. And as soon as she like closes the door, he like leaps at her and he fucking bites her stomach and her leg, which is crazy because, he's got rabies. Now she's got rabies. It's incredibly scary. It's one of those scenarios where it's like, it's, easier said than done. Like when I was reading the book and stuff like that, I'm sitting there just like, come on, fucking Donna, you got to do something else. You got to get out of this fucking Pinto and find that fucking dog. Like I was, in my mind, I was going on one of those Billy Madison rants about the puppy that lost its way. I was just like, bitch, you got to get out of this fucking Pinto. You got to whoop that dog's ass. I'm sorry. Even if it kills you, you got to fucking kill that dog or something. Or I don't know. I don't know if that's the right choice. It was just, it was a frustrating one, but you don't really see her trying anything else other than like at the very last moment. And I'm going to spoil the book, obviously. I feel like, it's a 1981 release. If you haven't read the book by now and you're watching this video, too bad. It's getting spoiled for you. But I will say, if you haven't read it, or even if you listen to all this and I spoil it for you and you know exactly what happens, read it anyway. It's a fucking great book. And honestly, I heard the ending before I read it. I can't remember where, but I did have the ending of the book spoiled for me, and the ending of the book is different than the ending of the movie. So if you have seen the movie and you haven't read the book, it doesn't play out. It doesn't shake out that way. Especially not for Tad, unfortunately. And that was the thing that I'm honestly glad I knew about before going into it, because that would have been such a gut punch. Basically, throughout these like 2.5 days that they're stuck at Joe Camber's garage, you basically just see Donna and Tad being dehydrated in this fucking car, and it's like 100 degrees outside. Tad's dying the whole time. He's just a little kid dying in the backseat of this car of like heat stroke and dehydration, and it's incredibly sad. I don't know what else to say about that whole situation right there. But then I'm skipping over so much stuff, but I'm just talking about the end here. But then when you get to the point where Donna actually does something, she goes out and she gets the bat, and she does eventually battle Cujo and fucking beat him to death. It's like so many other things have happened at this point. 2.5 days have gone by at this point. They only brought like a thermos of milk and like some snacks, because they were just like, we're going on this trip to drop off the car or whatever. We don't know how long it's going to take for him to fix the car, but probably be like less than a day or something. Might be like an afternoon. So they didn't really plan accordingly. It's kind of one of those things nowadays where I feel like everyone recommends like, have a case of water in your car just in case something happens, which, honestly, if they just had that, they probably would have survived, which is crazy to think about. Or at least Tad would have survived. I guess Donna does survive. It's almost like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre situation, though, where it's like, who will survive and what will be left of them? Because by the end of it, it's like, Donna's got to be fucking, she's completely like unglued by the end of it. She's fucking killing Cujo. Vic pulls up and he's just like, whoa, what's going on here, You fucking bludgeoning a Saint Bernard with a baseball bat and shit. And he pulls Tad out of the car and brings him over to the shade. And he's just like, lays him down. And Donna's like, what the fuck? What the fuck happened? And then she's like, oh yeah. I don't even remember what she says, but she says something to him about Tad, and he just goes, how long's he been dead? And it's just, that's how you find out that Tad died. And you're just like, fuck me, because up until then he's like having convulsions, he's like having these weird dreams about being in a duck pond, which you kind of imagine is him like seeing the light. You know what I mean? Like when someone's dying and they're seeing the light, or they're like on their way to heaven, basically. It's kind of the idea that you get. Like Tad's in between right now. He's basically dying slowly in this car, and he's having these visions of going to this like peaceful duck pond, which is death for him. But when he's there, he's way happier. And there's times when he's like in the car and he's like, I want to go back to the duck pond. And it's just like, my God, you gotta be fucking kidding me. It's just heartbreaking, honestly. And so that's how you find out that Tad dies. And then the paramedics show up and everything. Donna is like biting the paramedics, like trying to fight them to keep resuscitating Tad. She's like blowing air into his lungs the whole time to try to bring him back. And the book the whole time is just like, and he's still dead. And it's just like, fuck. So anyway, that's a big enough gut punch for the book. Then you got like all the drama that's going on with Vic. And then before all that, in the very beginning, like I said, you get Cujo's origin story, like his villain arc, where it's just like he's the sweetest dog. He just happens to chase after a rabbit, and when he finally catches up to the rabbit, it runs into this little cave, and he sticks his big ass head in there trying to get the rabbit, but he can't get it, so he's kind of just like barking at the rabbit and shit, stirs up these bats. The bats come down and fucking bite him, and guess what? The bats have rabies. So from then on, you just kind of get like Cujo POV every once in a while, where it just talks about like how he's changing and how he's like becoming more like filled with rage, and everything he sees is causing him pain. Everybody that he sees throughout the book, he assumes like this is the person that's causing me all this pain, and that's why he goes and tries to kill him. But I think Cujo kills 4 people, or 4 people die because of him. The first person he kills is Joe Camber's friend, which is this Gary Purvier guy who Joe and Gary are getting ready to go on a trip to Boston together, and they're just like, yeah, my wife's going to fucking visit her sister with my son, and we're gonna go to Boston, watch some baseball games, and bang some hoes. Basically, it's like their whole plan. But Cujo fucking puts a little kink in that plan, because he shows up to Gary's house all fucking whacked out on rabies, and Gary's like, what's up, Cujo, motherfucker? And he just eats Gary's neck, pretty much is what happens. And it's like, all right, well, Gary's dead. And then Joe is getting ready to leave, and he's just like, sup, Joe, I'm gonna eat your fucking neck too. No, I think Joe goes to Gary's house and he finds like the mess, and he's just like, holy shit, what the fuck happened here? And he knows it's Cujo before he even sees Cujo, because he sees a giant pile of dog shit in his garage, and he's just like, damn, what the fuck? Like, Cujo never shits in the garage, this motherfucker. And then when he goes to Gary's house and finds him dead, he also sees a giant pile of dog shit laying in the house, and he's just like, oh no, that's my dog shit. That's not gonna be good. I got a big ass dog, and he's laying some big ass logs. Oh no! Ah! He's fucking biting me! Ah! He's biting my dick! Oh, sorry. Anyway, back to the story. So, like I was saying, basically the overall theme is just like lack of communication and putting things off. And that's just kind of what triggers everything. Even like I said, with the stuff with Donna and waiting till the last minute to get the bat. I mean, they kind of go over all the what ifs with that, where they're like, well, what if she went for the bat earlier, but Cujo was too strong and she was overpowered and stuff like that. But at the same time, she's probably been weakened so bad at that point from not having any food or water either. I was trying not to judge Donna too harshly throughout this whole thing. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of tough, because you're just like, she's like, I don't know, I could make a run for the door, but I guess I'll just wait in the car for 2.5 days. And it's like, god damn, that's a choice. That is a choice there, Donna. 2.5 days? You don't think there was like ever a moment where you're like, I might be able to outrun this motherfucker? And I get it. It's a big ass dog, and it probably would have fucking killed her. But at the same time, other than her being alive, the end result would have been the same, which I know you can't see that. It's just like hindsight's 2020, but at the same time, it's like, I think there's even like another vehicle there. I think, she says Joe Camber's truck's there. So it's kind of like one of those things too, where it's like, maybe you could run over to Joe Camber's truck and see if he's got any shit in there. Also, don't you think they would have like a tire iron in the back? And I guess, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, bust out the tire iron and do one of those moves that you do in video games when you're fighting like an overpowered boss, where you like hide and then you jump out for a second and hit him like one time and then you go hide again. You know what I'm saying? It's like if she had that tire iron and she just like whipped out there, fucking cracked Cujo like right in the dome with it, and then jumped back in the car and shit and just like waited again for a while. Probably could have done that in like over a day's time, had his ass killed. You know what I mean? I don't know. These are just all the scenarios that were running through my head as I was getting through this book. And I was just like, 2.5 days is a long fucking time to just sit in a car and die from dehydration. But, you know, geez Louise, lady. Really quickly, I'll just go over the other like family story that's going on. So basically, Joe Camber is kind of a piece of shit. He's kind of like a hick car mechanic guy that just works on cars for like $5 a pop, because he's just like a little towny type of guy, you know what I mean? He's married to Charity Camber. Their son's Brett Camber, like I said. And he's just kind of like a huge dick to his wife. And she wins a little bit of money through the lottery, like $5,000 or whatever. And she buys him like a piece of equipment that he's been needing. And she's basically like, listen, I got this money. I'll give you all the fucking money. I just want to go on a trip with our son to visit my sister. And she's kind of just trying to expose Brett to some more culture, some other like ways of life, because she's afraid that he's going to get sucked into Joe's way of life, where he's just kind of like this drunk guy that doesn't ever do shit. You know what I mean? And she can kind of see how he's falling into his father's footsteps. So they go off the whole time they're visiting Charity's sister. I can't even remember where the fuck they go, but basically like her sister's husband's a lawyer. They have a lot more money than they do and stuff like that. So you kind of cut back and forth with them and see like how their vacation is going on during this whole episode with Cujo and the rabies and stuff like that. And it's interesting because there's some moments with Brett, and this will probably bring us into our next topic here about the book, where it's like, is there anything supernatural going on? Because there's some moments where like Brett's sleepwalking while they're on their trip, and he's just like talking out loud about Cujo, and he's just like, Cujo's not hungry anymore. And Charity's like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, you're scaring the fuck out of me, bud. And he kind of tells his mom like, yeah, before we left, I saw Cujo and he looks sick. And the mom's basically like, do not tell your fucking dad that, or he's not going to let us go on this trip. So he's kind of worried about Cujo the whole time that they're on the trip. He's like, maybe Cujo's sick, or maybe he needs help or something. But the mom's just like, shut the fuck up about Cujo, bud. We need to go on this damn trip. Your dad's been whooping my ass all the time. I got to get away from this motherfucker. And that's kind of their whole story summed up, basically. Some of the other like potentially supernatural moments in the book, there's like the whole thing with Tad's closet. Tad's afraid of what's in his closet. It seems to just open on its own, and he imagines that there's like a scary monster in there and shit. And when he sees Cujo with the rabies and the foam in the mouth and the blood all over his fur and shit, he's like, that's the monster from my closet. Holy fuck. And it even talks about the moment at the end where Donna is fighting Cujo to the death. He says, holy shit, I'm watching my mom get killed by the monster from my closet. There's that whole thing, and that ties into the book The Dead Zone with the Frank Dodd character from the book The Dead Zone, which I just got The Dead Zone. I'm going to read that one next. I think I just have to, after reading Cujo and Needful Things. It's just brought me on this journey of these 3 books, which is really great. I like how the Stephen King books usually tie in together. It's probably one of my favorite things about them so far that I didn't expect. I really didn't know that there was this whole Stephen King universe. I had mostly just watched the movies before this. The only Stephen King book I read before this was The Dark Half. I read that one in high school, and that's interesting. I'm going to have to reread it because that one also ties into Needful Things too. So pretty cool. So yeah, we got this Frank Dodd guy who was a serial killer in Castle Rock during the 70s, and basically it's just kind of attached to the town, this whole thing that happened. I think it just happened like a few years before Cujo, so the town is still like feeling the effects of it, and you see the cops in town like mention it a lot. People kind of refer to him as the boogeyman, so there's almost this thought that like, has Frank Dodd's spirit infected the town or possessed Cujo in a way, although it is just the rabies. That is something where it's like, to me, this whole story feels very grounded in reality. I don't think there's like really anything supernatural going on in this book, other than I do think that Tad has a little bit of The Shining, as well as maybe Brett, because he seems to just have these like this intuition about things going on. And it is kind of one of those things where it's like, typically kids in Stephen King books do seem to shine a little bit. There's also adults and stuff like that too, but it's almost like the idea that like kids are more in touch with like the supernatural or whatever. So I do think that Tad shines a little bit in this book because he seems to he sees things way before they even happen. He has a dream about the bat breaking, which is something that happens while Donna is fighting Cujo at the very end. But like early on in the book, he has this dream about the monster in his closet and the red eyes and stuff like that. And almost like a premonition of death. I can't remember exactly what it is, but there's something pretty early on in the book that this kid has some sort of idea that something like ominous is going to happen. When you're talking to a little kid about this type of thing, you know, a lot of times it's just going to seem like their imagination. They're scared of their closet and everything like that. But a lot of the things that he has dreams about or kind of sees or has visions about or whatever, premonitions, whatever you want to call them, they do end up kind of coming true in some way or another. So I do believe that out of all the characters in this book, Tad shines a little bit. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about with Cujo, the book. Within the next week or so, I'll do an episode on the movie, rewatch that, and kind of give my opinion on the movie and how it compares to the book, which one I enjoyed better. One of the only other things that I didn't really get into, which it's a lot to get into. I mean, even though this is like one of his shorter books, I still feel like there's so much that goes on in it. So many like varying storylines and timelines that end up matching up really well. I feel like everything's put together in such a precise way where it's like all of these series of events affect the other, and it would only end up happening this way if everything lined up perfectly. It does feel like a very fatal story. But there is the whole other like Steve Kemp storyline that's going on here, where it's the guy that Donna was sleeping with, and he throws a wrench into everything that's going on too. And whenever Vic can't get a hold of Donna, he calls the police to do a checkup. Well, Steve Kemp stopped by the house and completely trashed the fucking place and like jacks off on their bed and destroys the kitchen, destroys the living room and stuff like that, like smashes all their pictures. So the cops think, shit, somebody fucking burglarized this place, and now this wife and son are missing. So they think it's like been a kidnapping. So they're looking in the complete wrong direction to try to find Donna and Tad whenever all this is going on. So that is a whole nother part of it that is just like really well done, really well put together. And I'll just leave it at that. That's all we're going to say about the book Cujo. I thought it was great. I'd give it like a 4 out of 5 if I was going to rate it. I am not very good at rating books. I've been using Goodreads to keep track of all the books that I've been reading lately. And I pretty much just given everything a 5 out of 5 unless it completely fucking sucks. So 5 out of 5 for Cujo actually is what I'm going to give it.